doing some Healy remote sessions. And Mary has agreed to be the willing participant for our client. And so this is going to be a lot of fun. I've worked with Mary many times. In fact, her and I met prior to being socially distancing. We met in person more than once, and so she was actually one of my first clients in my Healy, and we had a lot of fun connecting and doing these sessions, but they weren't remote. So now we're going to do them remotely. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to bring my phone on board here. And to do that, if you're doing a Zoom call, I actually did a little video on how to do that, sharing the phone on a Zoom call and sharing your screen. So I did do a little Zoom on that to show people how to do that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start the screen broadcast. And what this allows us to do is to actually see the app on the phone. There it is. Okay, so everybody see that? So now, because I've got the Zoom on there, Mary, can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Got to have Mary because she's going to be our participant. So what we do is we will go to number one. You want to make sure that the Healy is on. Now, because I have it plugged in, this is a little hack, folks. If you have the Healy plugged in, it's essentially already on. You see the green lights on that says it's charging, but if I was to go in and activate the app, and the app that we're going to activate is the blue dot. It's called Heal Advisor app. And it's got the blue dot there. You see the top left of your screen, or the little box. So if I click on that, what it does is it starts to activate the Healy, and you'll see the blue light, the Bluetooth light start to flash. Okay, so if the device is not plugged in, then you're going to need to turn the device on by momentarily pressing the on button. The green light will come on and flash. Then you start the app. Okay, this is important in terms of procedural startup, because if you do it the other way around, it's not a secure connection between the Healy and the app. So the Healy is the initiate. It initiates everything. So the Healy must be on first. Then you open the app. Okay, so blue lights flashing mean there's communication between via Bluetooth between the Healy and the app. I click on the next button, and now we have clients. We'll do a different training on how to set up a client, but for this purpose, we already have Mary here on my client list. So we just click on clients, and then I go and I find Mary. Now, I've had the pleasure, like I said, of setting her up as a client before. We met for tea more than once and had several different sessions. So those were all in person. Now we're going to do this remotely, like I mentioned. So you see our goddess Mary is there on the screen, and there are the various pieces of information about her. What I'd like to do right now is to get a current vibration recorded in her client list. And you see at the top of the screen, it says record vibration. All right, and then there's a plus sign at the far right. So what that does is that essentially elicits Healy and the quantum sensor to interact with Mary and her client list. But you see the information about Mary. We don't necessarily need all this information on there, but if we have her picture, if we have her place of birth, her date of birth, and her name, now we've got pretty much all the cosmic information, the tangible information about her as a person. So now we can actually do analysis with that information. Now you see that the client list has much more deeper information that it asks you to put in there. If people are just not comfortable with doing that, then those things that I mentioned, the picture, their name, their place of birth, and their date of birth, those are very critical pieces of information because of the different representations that they have with that soul, with that human, with that being. Okay, so So anyway, so the Healy is on. We're going to do a vibration recording. So I just need Mary to say hello to me.
Hello, Ken.
There you are. Since she said hello, what Zoom does is because it picked up her audio, it pulls her picture in onto my screen. So now I can see her, right? So that's being present with each other as the facilitator, me. I'm just kind of getting out of the way and letting Healy do the thing. But I really want to bring her energy in to this present moment. And then I want her, because she can see me and see Healy on her screen, to be present with Healy. Not me, but Healy. So to record a vibration, I'm just going to ask Mary, and you're going to ask your client to say, okay, let's just take a deep breath for a second. Just breathe in our own space. Be present in this moment. And we'll put all of our energy on Mary. And then when Mary's ready, you just say you're ready, and I'm going to press the plus button to record your vibration. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. And it's very quick, just like that. See how it picked her up and recorded the information? Okay, and then at the top of the screen, you'll see that it says, it has that little check mark. Okay, so we click on that little check mark, and now it's going to store the new vibration, new recording, into her record. So we have current date data. And then it's going to ask us if we want to do another analysis, and I'm going to say yes. So it'll take us right over to the analysis page. So we can do the auric analysis or the resonance analysis. And what we're going to do first is we're going to do an auric scan. So the auric analysis at the bottom of the screen there. Okay, so we click on that, and there it brings Mary into the field, and we can click on record aura. Or since I have a history of her, I could go back to her history. You see that history tab, and I could choose one of the other readings that we've already done. We're not going to do that today because we want to do everything in present moment, and we're going to go along with the understanding that this is a brand new client. Okay, so we'll click on record aura. Here we go. Wow. See how quick that was? It already has an essence of her. So it goes pretty quickly. Sometimes it's not that quick because when it's brand new. At the top of the screen up there, you'll see a little cloud with an arrow down. We can take that information. We can click on that, and that's going to generate a PDF. Okay. And this is kind of cool information for your client, for your participant, so that you can send them some real tangible data, some data that comes from the Healy about their fields. And you can see that this actually gives a bar graph representation of her energy centers, okay? And then also tells you a little bit about the energy centers themselves. Now I'm going to email this to her so that she can read this, in depth. And this gives you something that you can go over later with your participant and get a little bit deeper information. Okay, so now at the top right of the screen, you see that menu icon there, the 3 dots connected. I click on that, and this is going to generate the PDF. So now I can email, see the PDF in the body of the email, kind of an important piece to talk about, because sometimes when it generates the PDF and the app shifts over to the email phase, the sending phase, the attachment doesn't migrate. So if it doesn't migrate, you have to go back and do that again. You don't have to go all the way back. You just go back and to where you can see the client's beautiful picture there with the auric field around them, and then tell it to generate the PDF again. And when you choose the email, it pulls it into the body of the email, and you'll see the PDF there in the body. Okay, so this is now because I have Mary in my phone, in my device, because we're friends, and we've emailed each other. We connected a lot. If I pull up Mary, I should have her email in here somewhere. Yep, right there. So if I didn't already have her information in my phone, now remember that the app itself is anonymous to your phone contacts. So even if you put the client's email address in when you first set the client up, when you go to this portion here where you're trying to send an email, it's not going to be on your phone. Remember, the email is being sent literally from your phone. So like I said, it's migrating the information from the app into an email body, which is on your phone, and then it's relying on all the information in your phone to send to that addressee. So if that addressee, if Mary is not in my phone as a contact, it's not going to pull her email address up. So I have to manually put that in. I just want people to know that this app is not collecting information for your device. So you as a client don't actually live on someone's device. You live in the app. So if the Healy app is ever compromised or damaged or deleted, all of those clients are gone. So what I recommend is that every time that you work with a client is that you send them to the Healy cloud. At the bottom, when you set up your client and you do their scans, there is a point in which you can click on add to the cloud. Now this is a medical cloud, so it's fully secure. 4096-bit encrypted. You're safe, right? Okay, so now we have Mary's email address. We have, I'm going to put this in the subject. I'm going to put Auric scan, and my typing skills are super fast, so bear with me. Generic, or I call it general. Okay, so this is like the general scan. Okay, all right, so now I can simply send this. Click on the arrow, there it goes, and it's gone. Okay, so now let's go back. We're done with this portion. And we'll go back to here, and you see the 3 dashed lines at the top right. I'm going to click on those. Now it's going to pull in the bar graph representation. This is a little bit more in depth. And you'll see at the bottom of the bar graph that it has chosen the 3 with the lowest representation. So this is a scale from 0 to 100%. This is just kind of the energy levels of your energy centers of your chakras. And this is based on a general 7 chakra system from the root to the crown. And these centers are represented by a color from infrared or red, the lowest frequency, which is the root representation, all the way up to purple or ultraviolet, which is the highest representation of color, which is your crown. So that's how this system works. And it's going to be represented by color, and color can be represented in terms of frequency. All color has a frequency. So this is kind of how it's looking at you. And then it picks the things that we should focus on the most. And these are going to be the ones with the lowest representations. And you see there, it picked crown, throat, and sacral. Now at the bottom, also you can see underneath each one of those bar graphs, there's another little dot in which I could actually manually add. See that? I can add the other centers to get a full report of the entire 7 centers. But and that's possible. But what I do is I want to try to be focused, right? Let's see what's needed right now. Let's work on what's needed right now. And with the others, if we work on these, the others are going to align a little bit better, or maybe even shift and need to have their focus be focused on later. There's another bar there that says interpretations. So we can click on interpretations, and it's going to pull in what the crown chakra represents. With the little energy within this crown chakra, here's some of the things that to take a look at in terms of what we may be working on or need to be working on. And then gives you a little bit more about those chakras. So you can go pretty much in depth with the individual, right? Now this particular interpretations you can't send. Okay, so you're just going to see that these you can read through and go over that with them. All right, that's the interpretations. So we're going to do an analysis. Mary, are you still there with me?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. There she is. All right, so we're going to start the analysis. Just Mary's going to be present with Healy right now. And Healy is right here saying hello. And we're going to start the analysis. Here we go. Okay. And now we have, based on those 3 centers, we have a report. And it gives us a little bit of significance. The 95% means that it's, this is in terms of priority, which one to pay attention to, 95%. All right, that's a high priority. And it tells you about the crown chakra, the color it should be, which is violet, and the present state color that it received from Mary, which is yellow-green. And then tells you about the present state description of why there may be that that dissonance, okay? And then some things to work on. And then there's another description there called desired state. What's the desired state of any one of the centers? Well, a complete and gentle healings of certain topics that are relative to Mary, okay? So, and this I can send to her. Right? We can send this to our client. Now, Mary's been willing to be on here and everybody be able to see her report. And then it's kind of, you know, maybe there's some things relevant that she's interested in. And then it talks about the next center. This is 92%. So it has a little bit lower priority rate, but still significant in terms of to pay attention. And you can see here the way that Healy talks about your, let's see, the way it talks about your state is in present tense or desired tense. Okay, so this is talking about the person and their desired state or present state. Okay, all right. So what I can do here with this is I have an actions tab or a vibrate tab. I can actually send the frequencies that Healy knows are available for alignment of these conditions to improve the state of those chakras. Or I have an actions tab that says I can send a PDF around this information. So what we're doing today is we're sending them reports to the individual. So I'm going to show a PDF. And we can go back over this information later. Okay, so what you'll see in the PDF form, this is just in text form, the same thing we were just looking at. All right, and it's still there, same stuff, just in a PDF form. Okay, so the top right corner, I can go there and email this. You see the report is in the body of the email. I'm going to pick up Mary here again. And this one I'm going to label as, this one is going to be auric scan. And this one I call specific because we're getting down to the root of things, right? Okay, there it goes. And now we're done with this. So we can go to the resonance scan now. And as you see some of my messages popping up, my Healy Advisor app pops up and says, how are you feeling today? I love that. You've seen that on my phone. Okay, so we can go now to the resonance analysis. We click on the resonance analysis and again, pick up our client. I have lots of clients and this is really super fun when you get lots of clients. You can go in and you can give them a little love whenever you get a hold of them and say, hey, you know what? I felt that I want to share something with you, and you can actually send them some of these frequencies.
Hey, Ken. Hi, Ken. This excuse me, it's Molly. Back on the aura, do you vibrate in addition to sending them the report?
We can, and again, that's based on the session time that you have. If you want, I highly recommend doing a short session of vibrating those frequencies into their field. For this training purpose, we're not doing it. I just kind of mentioned that that's possible, but yes, I definitely do that.
So the only advantage of sending them the report is that they get to read it.
Yeah.
They're not getting the vibration, right?
Yeah, so we send the report, and that gives us an opportunity, or gives them an opportunity to review it, because sometimes some of this information is people are going, well, wait a minute, no, this doesn't relate, I don't understand. And if you give someone time to actually review the report, especially if it's a new person. Remember, we're talking about new folks here that have never experienced Healy, perhaps, or never even experienced energy type of modalities for healing. So this is relevant to anyone. You don't have to be a mystic or a guru or a meditator or anything to receive this. And so this, I'm giving more basic understanding. And then once they review the reports that you send them, it's our job as the host, or as the facilitator or the practitioner, to reach back into their lives and say, hey, how do you feel? What do you think? And then continue to connect with them, and bring them into balance. So the next session, because you can pull this list up later from your.
Ken,
Get back in. This is Sonia. I don't vibrate as often, and was curious. I've heard all of the presentations about how long you vibrate. With the aura, what's your recommendation for timing of vibration, length of timing?
So to your question, Sonia, there is a default time of 1 minute and 20 seconds. And so you can just sit in peace and silence and enjoyment, and click on that vibrate for 1 minute and 20 seconds, and allow that to go out to your participant, your client. And that's great. It's just all about based on you. You know, we are always compensated to the extent of our service. And so if we give more service, it's going to come back to us. You know, anytime we heal others, we heal ourselves. So so definitely do those things, and vibrate those to that field. When we get to the resonance part of this, different than the auric, when we get to the resonance part, that's when we're actually sending it to the tangible field of the body. Now, a little more time is not a bad thing. And if we're working with acute things versus systemic things, there's lots of different philosophies about how long to send that. Okay, so we're just working with it. Well, not just, but we're working with the auric field right now, or then, and that's where we're going to send it to that for that 1 minute and 20, or go back later and do it in multiple phases. We can go back to the client list, pick up that one client, pick up Mary, pick up that one particular list, which is the auric list, and they're shown in your lists. They're color coded. The auric scans are kind of a pink hue to them, and they have a date and time stamp in there. So it's a field that just shows you. First of all, you look up the client, you click on lists, and it'll pull up the lists. The pink ones represent auric scans. The blue ones represent the resonance scans, which are corresponding to the pink dot and the blue dot you see there on the screen. Different apps. Okay, let's go back into the Healy, back into the resonance, and you see that it's reconnecting to my Healy. When we're doing anything with the resonance app, if you leave the app to answer your phone, to check the weather, to do a text, it disconnects from the Healy. Why? Well, because this is a very secure connection between the Healy and the resonance of the app. So you have to reconnect. So I recommend that when you're doing a session that you don't go in and out, right? Just stick with it. Okay, so now we're in the resonance. You see at the top of the screen it says resonance, and that means that we're now working with the fields of the body. Our client, Mary, is right there at the top with her smiley, beautiful face. You see, what's our focus with Mary? Our focus with Mary is to obtain what is the greatest resonance now. That's just information. And so that's kind of her focus. That is going to be our client's affirmation or mental presence, instead of worrying about whether they left the lights on in the bathroom or what that last email said. Just being present. And so this is the question that I have I ask the client. I'm going to move this so I can see Mary. There's Mary's smiling face on my screen. Okay. So just in your mind, Mary, just read this statement. You don't have to say it out loud, but just in your minds, think about, with what do I have the greatest resonance now? That's a curiosity thing. Now you can actually answer that question if you like. So here's the fun part. Play with this. So if you just leave the question open-ended, now Healy's going to answer that for you. If you put some parameters on it, Healy's still going to answer it for you, but under the parameters. See, so this is kind of a fun place to play. So the next block there is continue with database selection. So with that focus in your mind, we're going to go over to our database selection. And now look at the database selection. So we can choose a database in which to analyze, basically using this database to focus on the needs of Mary. Okay, so we have all these Bach flower amino acids, all the different things, and we can shoot all the way down the bottom. And now we're getting into the Healy frequency, microcurrent frequency programs. See that? At the very bottom, we have all Healy programs. So there's a number next to them, that's 16, or above that is the deep cycle, number 12. Essentially what these mean is there's 16 different databases within the all Healy programs, which are essentially the 16 pages of programs. And each page has anywhere from 6 to 12 different programs on it. So there's a lot. So when we click on, let's just go ahead and click on the all Healy programs. And now you see that that has pulled that into the category under the database selection. So now it says all Healy programs. And we can go back and edit it. If we click on that little pencil thing on the left, we can change that. But for now, we're going to stick with this. So Mary, with that statement in your mind, that focus, all right, I can click on Start Analysis, and now you're going to see a fingerprint pop up on the screen. Now, this fingerprint has been a controversial question for quite a few people. Like, okay, people on the other end of the Zoom that are receiving the scans, or receiving the treatment, or receiving the session, they're putting their finger on the screen going, why isn't that not doing anything? Well, it's because I actually have to activate it on my device here with my finger, but I remove myself from the equation. I'm just the conduit. I'm just the activator. So my screen is going to sense my finger's pressure and activation, but it's still all focused on Mary. So what I do, and what we do, is we have the participant just put their finger on the screen. Now, if you have a touchscreen computer, don't touch the screen because it'll probably activate something else. Just come close to it. You can just simply just have your awareness. The point is just having your awareness in this present moment. That's the key, so that Mary is aware and present with what we're doing, and she's not worried about her beautiful little puppy dog at home, right? She's not worried about anything else, just her and the present moment. Okay, you ready, Mary?
I'm ready.
Okay, so when you're ready, just put your awareness with the statement in mind, with what do you have the greatest resonance now, and here we go. Wow, that was super quick, by the way. Sometimes it takes much longer, so Mary must not have very much resistance at all. She's just ready. I love that. Okay, so now take a look at what it picked out. It picked out 5 different pages here, starting with the most highest priority, 73% in the Healy Jobs program. So there, remember I said there's 16 different pages, and each one of these are a different page. So we have the learning programs, we have the meridians programs 2, the bioenergetic balance 2, and we have the chakras. You know,
So Ken, I did a scan on myself this morning, a resonance scan, and I didn't look at the bottom 3 programs, but the top 2 came up on my scan of myself. I just wanted to add that to this.
these same ones?
Yes.
See, so if you understand, remote is no different than in person. I mean, it's like remote scanning. When you're doing remotes, it's energetic fields. These are present omnidirectionally and everywhere. So Mary could be on the moon or Mars and still be getting the same information from the information field. Okay, so now we have 5 pages. And so what I do with the client is I actually write these down on my end. I will write these down. I will say that it's, you know, it's the Healy job. And and then the learning. I'm writing them down. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're going to drill this down a little bit more. And so right now we just have 5 pages of programs, and that's a lot, right? That's 5 pages worth. Like I said, anywhere from 6 to 12 programs per page. So do the math. That's a lot. So we want to be a little bit more specific. So what I call this one is, I'm writing, by the way, I'm multitasking. What I call this one is the resonance scan generic. Okay. All right. So now under my actions tab, I click on the actions tab and I have the options. I can send them a PDF, which is what we're going to do today right now, or I can choose vibrate. And this is going to send all of those frequencies, all 5 pages, all up to 12 programs per page to Mary for a certain period of time. I'm not going to do that right now. We're going to go into the show PDF. Okay, we're going to generate a PDF, and the PDF is going to look in text form the same as what we just saw. Okay, all right. So now I click on that top menu item up at the top there. And look, here's a perfect example. It did not pull the report into the body of the email. So we have to go back. And what I normally do is I'll sit there and I'll search through, I'll take a look at the PDF a little bit, give it a little bit more validity, and then go back over to the email. See you can see it says analysis and then a PDF there at the top next to that little X. So it looks like it's there, but when we go to email, it's not there. And so we have to go back and continue to generate that until it shows up. Yeah, there's not really there's not necessarily a reason that I can say on the electronic or the digital fields why that's happening.
Hey, Ken, it's
Yep.
Molly.
Yep.
What I do when that happens, which is most every time, is go down and push copy,
Okay.
and then it pulls it. Or no, you cut and paste when you go into the email.
So
Down to the bottom.
Yep.
It says copy.
Get it to go up there. Let's go try that. There it is. Awesome. Hey, Molly, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's supposed to pull it into the body of the email automatically, but as you see, sometimes it's not doing that. So now we have another little fun little hack that we can work around, right? Okay, so we bring Mary back up, and I send this as the resonance scan general. Okay, remember, it's all 5 pages there. And send it. There it goes. Okay, so now let's go back, and we're going to click on it to see at the bottom of the screen, you have the house, the heartbeat, and the gear. Click on the heartbeat in the center. Okay, go back to the resonance analysis, and we're going to pull Mary back up again, our client. And now where it says to continue with database selection, we're going to do another scan on each one of those pages individually. Okay, so we have the general scan of all 5 pages. Now let's drill it down to each page individually to find out, well, how can we best support that person, let's support Mary, on just that one page? Because then it'll drill down to the top 5 programs on that page, which is super cool. Okay, so let's go ahead to database selection. And remember, anybody remember what the first one was? Jobs.
Jobs.
Somebody was writing it down, right? No, I wrote it down too, but that's what we want to make sure we do is we write that down. Okay, so you see jobs right there in the center? Click on jobs. Now we've drilled it down to just that page, and we can find the top 5 programs on just that page that will support her in this present moment. So Mary, are you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay, so now again, with that focus in mind, with what do I have the greatest resonance now? Keep that in your mind. We're going to just drill it down to just the Healy jobs. And when you're ready, you say you're ready and we'll start.
I'm ready.
Here we go. Awesome. Did you notice that took a little bit longer? So it's getting a little bit more detail, all right, which is super cool. So now we have a recipe, essentially, for just this one page. So with those 5 pages that were picked up before, and now we're going to drill it down to the 5 programs on each page. Now we're creating a recipe. And when I call that the recipe, it's like something that we can do throughout a week or 10 days or however long we want to send this to the client. All right, so you see here we have starting at priority 1, 80% relevant. Healy Jobs activation, right? We want to activate that job energy. Well, right now we're kind of in a spot in our lives, many of us, where we're maybe not sure about our jobs, or what our jobs have changed a lot in some cases, and now we're not doing the same thing. So anyway.
Can I jump in there really fast, Ken?
Yes, please.
So I'm a school teacher and I've been doing distance learning since March, and I'm at the end of my school year. It's just all appropriate. Yeah.
I love that. Isn't that great? Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have, and what I do with this, now that we have jobs, I will write down next to jobs, I'll write down the actual programs associated that it picked up. So I will write down activation and exhaustion. Now this is all captured in her list, so I really don't have to, but I do this for my own follow-up information, because I can, with this, I can go and look up what each one of these mean in the Healy manual, or in the resonance manual. I can see exactly what it says, the meaning of exhaustion acute or exhaustion systemic. And I promise you, when you look those up, because there are English words here that represent something in our mind, doesn't necessarily mean it represents the same thing in what Healy's trying to achieve. Okay, because I've been surprised 100% of the time with what I think it means and what Healy tells me it's doing. So I invite everybody to take a look at that. So this is balanced nerves. I take a look at what the meanings of each one of these programs are. And then what I do with the client is I will send them, when I'm doing the, and we'll get to this in a second, but when I'm doing the actual transmitting of these frequencies on the scheduled times that we agree upon, when I'm sending these, I will send them a list via text or messenger or email, however people want to connect with me. And I'll send them the list of, I will say, I am sending you your session based on the jobs page, and here's the sequence, activation, exhaustion, acute, and so on and so on, these words. I won't tell them what they mean, because I'll first send the vibrations to their field for the scheduled amount of time at the scheduled time and day. And then after it's done, I will send them what they mean. And I'll ask them to do a little journaling, to write down a little bit of experience. What are you feeling? What are you getting? What's going on in your life? And then we'll schedule the next session, which would be the next page. Okay. And based on them, if they need a little time to recover from this particular session, then give them a day or 2 or 3 or whatever. I've been doing it a lot of times day after day, a 24-hour cycle the next day. But if somebody's feeling a lot of activation, a lot of shifts or changes in their lives, especially if there's things from some of the meridian programs or some of the bioenergetic programs, because those are things addressing organs and systems, cells specifically in the body. And there may be some detoxing. There may be some shifts and adjustments, and it's give your body time. And another important piece about the sessions is that you make sure that the person has self-care, taking care of themselves prior to the appointment. So what's that mean? It means at least a liter of water prior to your session that they've drank. It also means that they have spent some time grounding. And what's that mean? you know, just walk barefoot in the grass. If it's in the wintertime, okay, try to grab a tree, something that you can just, some kind of grounding element, right? Which you can do. If you have, depends on the age of your house. I mean, I have hardwood floors, and my house is a 1909, so it's created and built on stone and real wood, right? Nothing synthetic. So I can actually just lay on my wood floor and kind of get some essence of grounding. The other thing to do is to move the body prior to your scheduled appointment. That's going to activate the lymphatic system and move those fluids within the body. And then lastly, spend a little time in nature. So just viewing nature, you can look out the window. That's a big one. But in nature, again, walking in nature does a couple things. It adds the movement. If you're walking barefoot, adds the grounding and adds the nature. So all of a sudden you got 3 in 1, right? It's pretty efficient. So those are some self-care pieces that's important. Okay. The actions tab down there, if I click on the actions tab, again, I can send a PDF, or I can actually vibrate. This is where we would actually send these frequencies to the client when it's time to do so under the vibrate tab. For now, I'm going to go into the PDF. Again, same representation there. I'll go to email, and look, it pulled it in. So it's, you know, we just deal with the little things that we deal with and come up with a result. All right. Mary is our person. There she is. I changed the name of this to resonance scan, and then I label jobs. Okay. So this is specific jobs, and I send it. All right. Now let's go back to Mary in the resonance. I'm going kind of fast here, but hopefully you'll remember what we did before. Pull Mary up, choose our database selection, and what we're going to choose this time was the next page. And in this case was, anybody? Learning.
Ken, how did you get back there?
Oh, good question. Okay, so
I'm on the page that has the jobs, and the purple action button is at the bottom, and I now want to go to the next one to drill down. Do I hit the home button?
so at the bottom of this page there, you see the home, the heartbeat, or the gear.
Yes.
Okay, so the heartbeat is where it takes us to whether we're going to scan in or auric.
Yes.
Okay, then we scroll to the client. I'm just going to run through this.
Oh, okay, so you want me to hit the heartbeat. Okay.
Tap on the heartbeat. That takes you, the heartbeat takes you to what you're going to scan, what area, what field, whether it be the body or the fields around the body. So we need to know that first. Then we need to know who the body is. Okay, so then we pick up the body.
Oh, I got it. Then I guess then I go to the next program inside the system. Got it.
So there you go. Yep. Now we just have the body, aka Mary, the client. Keep in mind the focus with what do I have the greatest resonance now. And these are important pieces to keep our client, our Healy, our person present. Okay, so then we click on choosing the database. Here's where we can drill it down. Okay, all right, we drill it down we're looking for learning page for her this time. Right there it is. Yeah. Click on that. Now limited the database so there's 364 different databases in just the homeopathic side and like 130 on the frequency side. Okay, so we have the homeopathic side, which you saw from the beginning, from Bach flower all the way down, and then when we hit the actual microcurrent programs, we have another 130 in that. And again, it depends on which additional subscriptions you have, because that will grow. The standard ones, they're not standard. There's nothing standard about these. These are amazing. But the programs that come with your gold or your holistic plus, when you have all of the pages, there's 16 pages, and like I said, anywhere from 6 to 12 programs per page. So now you're up to, a basic of 120 different programs. That's a lot. But you add some subscriptions, they have 14 more pages of programs. It's like never ending.
Oops, I gotta mute myself.
Okay. All right. So then now we are going to start the analysis on just the learning page. Mary, are you with me there?
What you can.
Okay. So now bringing yourself present to the present moment with that statement, with what do I have the greatest resonance now? And remember, you can add a answer to that. Maybe play with it. All right, here we go. Just you, Mary, and begin. Now, do you see the difference in the amount of time it takes? Some of them a little more, but you noticed, if you would have noticed on the job pages, the top one it picked was in the 80 percentile. So that means it's really important. So I think, you know, when it's really a big thing in our lives, it takes a little bit longer to actually get that drilled down. And so now we're in the 49 percentile, still important, but now we have another portion of the recipe in our learning page. So we have exam, and this is acute. Stress. Who wouldn't want a little bit of a relief from this? All right, we'll scroll up to learning. I heard that, Linda. Want to mute yourself? Okay. Exam. Systemic. Okay. And I'm writing these down because as the facilitator, I'm going to go back and use this to really support the person, to support Mary even more. Okay, so concentration, acute. All right, so you see how this is drilling it down? Now we can do each one of these pages. Let's just go back and do one more. How about that? Anybody? Everybody okay?
Okay.
All right, let's do one more page. So we're picking Mary again. Of course, she's our center of attention today. And as she says there in her title on her client page, Goddess. I love that. All right. So now we are going to pick the database, which is the third one on the list, which is Meridians 2. And we have two Meridians pages, Meridians page 1 and Meridians page 2, just like you see bioenergetic balance 1 and 2. All right. So what, did I pass it? Probably.
Yeah. Go back down, I think. Go back down.
Keep going, keep going. There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So you see meridians 1 and 2, because there's many meridians. So you see there's 10 meridians on each page. You see that little 10 in the parentheses after it? That's how many different programs there are within that particular page. Okay, so we're picking meridians 2. All right, and then with that statement in mind, Mary's going to stay present. Are you ready, Mary?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so now we have another part of the formula or the recipe. All right, and so these are the ones, the meridians we're going to work on this.
Hey, Jen, what is that word select with the little arrow pointing down?
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
This is the one we're going to get to that one, because what we're going to do is we will do this on all 5 pages. So far we've done it on 3. But when you're doing this with a person, you want to really get a very, very clear recipe. Then you can do this on all 5 pages. Why? Because Healy recommended it. This is an objective recommendation for that client. None of me is part of the equation. So follow it all the way through its full thread. All right. So we have lymphatic, spleen. And remember, it'll have a different meaning when you go and read what these are. And like I said, I do this. I will send these particular categories to Mary when I'm starting this particular session with her. I'll send these categories to her via messenger or text or whatever. And then I will define those later after she's done. So I'll send them the same list, but with the definitions after it, based on what the owner's manual, not the owner's manual. You can go to the, Healy has a programs page, and it's 2 pages of very fine print about generically what each one of these programs mean, what they represent, what they're doing. And so it's about a couple of sentences, except for the gold program, and there's a couple of paragraphs for each one. But anyway, that's you can go there, find those definitions, and send those to the client.
Hey, Ken, but if this is all an energetic process, even though their definitions may be not in sync with what my Western mind would hold as the definition, and if this is all energetic, then does it matter that their definition is very different? Isn't the intention the main constituents of the delivery of the frequency?
Yeah, and it depends on from whom's perspective you're coming. So if you're coming from the perspective of the practitioner, then the definitions you're putting out there and all that information has nothing to do with you. If you're coming from the perspective of the recipient, then you have judgment. We all have judgment. We all have opinion. We all have speculation. And so we're giving the definitions based on Healy, based on that database. This is hundreds of years of culminated information in Chinese medicine, in homeopathic medicine, all the practitioners put together. This is the best form of definition. Now, is it the best? Not necessarily, because...
But isn't it subjective? And then wouldn't it be up to the recipient if the definition for lymphatic was something very off to what her mind could receive? Couldn't she in her own mind put her own definition on it?
Sure. And could she sabotage all the benefits? Absolutely. But what's the point here? The point here is to bring someone's awareness to a higher level. That's our job. Okay.
Then why give her definitions? I'm just curious. Why give her definitions at all then?
For that reason, if her perspective or their perspective, his perspective, is a lower awareness perspective, we can bring that higher. And we're not using our judgment. We're using Healy's. Okay. So this is the point. When we start to become an objective observer, we are out of the equation. We're using what Healy's providing us. This is a tool. And we can either edit that and change the outcome, or we can go with that and stay consistent and duplicatable. Okay, so that's the point, is remaining objective and duplicatable. Now, what they do with it on their end, again, if they had a horrible experience with us because we came to the table with a bad attitude and messy hair and just downright grumpy demeanor, they're probably not going to have a very good experience. That's not our job, and that's not who we are. So
right, we're trying to be a neutral conduit between the Healy's definition of what they programmed it to address and the client. So whatever the client does with the Healy definition is up to them. And so I am wanting to get out of the way. Right, Mary?
Right. And it's just all a learning process for me. And I think that by just learning and doing the resonance and the ARC scan, it provides me for an opportunity to kind of absorb and register what my definitions are, and then listen to Healy's. And I know it just gives me another way of thinking. So, personally, that's a personal use, but then we're talking, the three-way thing between yourself, your client, and Healy of getting out of the way. But meanwhile, this is a wonderful discussion. I love it.
Yeah.
Me too, Mary.
Yeah. And the other part of that too is that no matter how amazing we are, no matter how we came to the table as the practitioner, it's ultimately based on the surrender and the receivability of the participant, right, of our client. You can give someone the most organic homeopathic foods and treatments, and they can go out in their lives and be angry and upset and have a poor temperament. And they're just going to have angry, upset, organic cells, that are still going to be diseased and disordered. So it's important that that the client themselves have information. It's information that leads us to transformation. And so that's our job. Give them as much information from an objective perspective And this gives us 5 different points of entry because we're creating a recipe. And depending on how frequent we're going to give them these points, you know, every day, every other day, whatever, it gives us opportunity to be influential. And that's key when we're trying to become influential over anyone. It doesn't matter who you are or where you live. Every single one of us here is influential. You have some influence, whether it's over your pet or over an entire country. There's influence that we all have. How do we do that? It's our energy. We're putting out some kind of energy. We're interacting with other humans. I don't think that there's anybody on this call or anybody that will ever watch this call that has been completely immune from interactions with humans. I promise you there's probably nobody. So they're influence of some sort, okay? So with that, I want to go on to the next step, if that's okay. Anybody else?
Well, hey, Ken, I do have an important question. The question that we're asking, which is, with what do I have the greatest resonance? Mary, can you help me with this? Because I cannot break down that question into an answer. With what do I have the greatest resonance? Would I say I have the greatest resonance with peace? Give me an example. Mary.
Well, I sometimes what I put in place is, to what do I have the greatest resonance with my higher self? It is what I put in place there. I like that. But what do I have the greatest resonance with? It's kind of asking, you know, mind, body, soul. What do I have the greatest resonance with? It's a general question, but it's what do I need right now? And it's also, I feel like it's a mindfulness practice as well.
Yeah, it feels like a German interpretation or a German description of what you just said that I can understand, which is, what do I have the highest, what did you just say, Mary? What do I have the highest
resonance for my highest self?
Yeah, because it's like a tricky question to me.
That's a good point. It's a good point as far as the words and the translation of it. But I think that I like Ken.
Mary, would I say to my client, okay, Mr. Client, so I'm good, because they can't see this because the client doesn't have this in front of them. The client's just a neutral client out there. So I say, okay, so I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to focus on it. With what do you have the greatest resonance? And they might go to me, what? Oh, I say it again. With what do you have the greatest resonance? So it's kind of like a tricky question.
So can I add something?
Yeah.
So in Mary's, what Mary's saying with our highest self, that is what we're actually trying to achieve here. And you're right, Carol, this is a German interpretation. Actually, it's English interpretation of German interpreting Ayurvedic or even Sanskrit. So we're still looking at interpretation of interpretation of interpretation. And the truth is, the bottom line is that if you were sitting next to your higher self, if you were sitting next to your deity, if you were sitting next to your God, and you were having tea and you said, what would best serve me right now?
Okay, I like that. See, it speaks in my language.
Yeah.
Like, what would best serve me right now? So, Mr. Client, I would like you to go into your space of self, higher self, authentic self, and articulate to me what would be of highest, or articulate it to yourself, what would be of highest service to you right now?
Absolutely. And here's the fun part. They can actually answer that question. They can either be curious and leave it open-ended, or they can actually answer it and allow the Healy system to give them clarity. Okay. So this is the coolest part to me, is that we can still bring us to the table and find an egoic or definition self. We can tap into the higher self or the best version of ourselves, and then meld the two into a moment of clarity and asking the question with our own spin on it, or staying completely objective and just say, hey, what best serves me now? And that's it.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Great question, Carol. Thank you. And thank you, Mary, for drilling this one down. All right. So let's get into the last step, which is, again, remember, we would have gone through all 5 pages, created a recipe for a period of time in which we're going to interact with a client, and we're going to send them 1 page at a time after they've done their self-care. We schedule a time and a date. So let's say that Mary says, you know what? Okay, my most receptivity in my day, in my circadian rhythm, is at 8 p.m. And she says, I want it at 8 p.m. And so we say, okay, great. Let's set up for 8 p.m. tonight. And and then I ask, well, so what amount of time is coming to you right now? So we click on the Actions tab and we go to vibrate mode. And Mary says, you know what? I just, this number keeps coming to me. And this number is 911. Now that's a number that always comes to me. That's why I said it. 911. I said, okay, that's fabulous. So 911, I have some preset times here. You see, I'm scrolling through. If you notice what I just did, let's back up. I want to go to the Actions tab. I click on Actions. Then I click on Vibrate. Now it's pulled in the sequence based on priority, from the highest priority to lowest priority. But the 5 different pages, or I'm sorry, the 5 different programs of frequencies are going to be sent to Mary's field. Now I have a choice. See that it says select transmission duration. I can click on that little down arrow and it brings the preset times. These are preset times based on some of the homeopathic medicines. In that's just, there's representation there about these times. All the way up to like 8 hours and 58 minutes and 40 seconds, right? 8, 5, 8, 4, 0. All right, so then, or I can go to manual, click on the done, and number that came to her was 911. Well, it could be 9 minutes and 11 seconds. It could be 9 days, 11 hours. It could be 9 hours and 11 minutes, whatever we decide. So that's her feeling into this. She's like, I want to do this. Can you do this for like, I'm going to go to bed and just feel like I want it in my field all night. Okay, let's go to 9 hours, basically on her numbers, right? She said 911 and 11 minutes. There we go. Now, are you ready to receive, Mary?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's just do it. Let's change this for just grins. Let's do it for, let's go back to manual. All right, and we're going to set this for back to 0 on the hours. And let's go for 9 minutes and 11 seconds. Now, I picked this number out myself, so this is really not Mary's number. But, well, let's just do it, Mary. You got a number?
243.
243. Awesome. I love it. How about we go
2
to
minutes, 43 seconds.
2 minutes. Oops. Back up. Take the hours back off. Okay. All right. Let's go to 2 minutes and 43 seconds. Okay. There we go. All right. So, Mary, are you ready to receive this program?
I am.
Meridians 2 is where we're at. So we hit the start key and here it goes. And so it's going to run automatically and you can see it scrolling through the frequencies relative to those programs. Now, what are those frequencies? Okay, so every program has a resource pool of hundreds of frequencies, but it's only going to pull in anywhere from 8 to 10 for Mary, because they're very relevant to Mary and very relevant to this particular organ or system or tissue. And then it's going to send just those relevant frequencies to her. So the cool thing about Healy is it can't send you something you don't need. It's not going to come from my list. It's going to come from Mary's list. And in order to actually send anything to anyone, it's got to have a list. It's got to have a representation. It's got to have a client. Okay. So can I pull up Mary's client and send it to me? Well, yeah, but it's actually still designed for Mary. So right now, all of us on this call are receiving Mary's frequencies, and none of them are counterproductive to us, because every one of them are alignment tools for those organs, systems, tissues, or emotions, or bioenergetic changes. Every one of them. There's not one that's a misalignment for humans. It may be a misalignment for a chimpanzee, but that's not what we're sending it to. So everybody here is getting this frequency. Everybody on the planet is getting this frequency. So we get 5 million Healys out there working every day, all day, 24/7. What do you think it's going to do to the consciousness of this planet? Big stuff, right? That just gives me goosebumps. I got
Ken, hey, as you were doing Mary's, I was doing my own on my resonance here, and at the timer at the bottom, mine says 1 hour, 5 minutes and 8 seconds. How did I get such a long one? And she only got 2 minutes to do hers.
We set that up as a custom time. So we went to manual. So
oh yeah.
If you scroll all the way down to manual, now you have the opportunity to put in whatever time you choose.
Okay, I must have put 1 for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, when in the because I was following along with my own formula, and
Yeah.
so how do I stop it? Just hit stop. Oop, okay.
Yep, it stopped.
Oh yes, under hours I have a 1. There you go. Okay.
Wanted more. Your higher consciousness just wanted.
Seriously.
No accidents there.
And this was a psychic program. This was the psychic program. So obviously.
Okay, so there it is. There it is. We just sent that to Mary for 2 minutes and 43 seconds. And now her field is now updated, the new blueprint. Here's the fun part. Here's what we're doing. We're working in the information field. What's information field? It's the blueprint that's our higher self that sits up there or down there or around there, or omnipresent, that's just looking for an opportunity to influence us. And if we allow it, if we surrender, if we become present, then it's just looking for that opportunity. What you are seeking is seeking you. We just have to get out of the way and stop worrying about what's for dinner or if I can, have a job tomorrow. And that worry, that concern, that cognitive chaos, that mental energetic drain or activity is removing very valuable resources designed for the body to heal with. And so the more time we spend in our day in that chaotic state or that analytical state, then the less time that our body has for repair and recovery and growth. And to the tune of 800,000 cells per second, our body's rebuilding itself every second. You can't stop that. You don't want to stop that. And so in the present moment, the second in which those 800,000 cells are being reproduced, it doesn't matter if it's stomach cell or bone cell or brain cell, it's still happening every second. It's just the bone cells last longer than, say, an inner lining of the stomach. So it's still being reproduced every second. And if you are in a state of chaos, worry, stress response, then those cells are being produced with that information code on their DNA, and that cell becomes a lower or decayed version of itself. And over time, now this is not going to happen in one moment, but over time of constant practice, and believe me, I'm sure you'd agree that a lot of people practice the same thought patterns. 95% of what we think, those 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, 95% of them are the same ones we had yesterday. And what are they? Well, rehearsal of the past, concern for the future, and worry in the present moment. So does that serve us well? Not so much.
Hey, Ken, I have a thought. What do you think about this? Mary, too. Choosing the minutes and the seconds, that was arbitrary, wasn't it? Because you said, choose your favorite number, right? What if someone was very good with a pendulum and they asked the client, okay, I would like you to, you'd use the pendulum, and I'm holding my pendulum right now. And I said, okay, to the client, okay, we're going to find out how many minutes we need for this program. 1, 2, 3, and I allowed the pendulum. You see, Mary, you're shaking your head, yes. We allowed the pendulum rather than them arbitrarily just picking up a number, which could be, they're picking up their own, you know, intuition. What do you
Right.
think about that? Possible, yes. It can't hurt anything.
No.
Our creativity it's our creativity. And so remember, we bring us to the table when we're trying to work with our world. And the reason that we're working with a specific person anywhere in our world is because of us. No one else can relate to them any better because we connect the dots. So I love your idea, Carol. I've got to wrap it up because I do have another appointment. And if there's any other questions, what I can do, Mary, is hand over the host back to you and give you the ability to run this longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Okay.
Quick question before you leave, Ken.
Yeah.
Is it true then that based on an analysis that we only can vibrate that? We can't connect to the microcurrent to run something that was from the resonance. Is that correct?
Yeah. So in the resonance program, the resonance does not transmit microcurrent out of the Healy. So that whole app, its job is only vibrate. Okay. Now, its other fun job, by the way, this will be another Zoom training, is that it can actually bring in more analysis of items, energies, or feelings to create your own databases, by the way. Just saying. I just
So
opened.
that's more custom then. That is really more custom.
I just opened a can of worms. I know we're not going to talk about that right now, but yeah, we can do amazing things with this. But yeah, to your point, the resonance is not going to transmit microcurrent, and that's not its job. If you notice, I have no leads attached to Healy while I'm doing this work because that's not its job. It's just an evaluation and sending to the field. Now, when we go to the Pink Dot app, the Healy app, now we dive into the microcurrents, and now it will actually connect to the leads and send those microcurrents to the body, to the organs, tissues, and cells. Same frequencies as the resonance. It's just that now it's on a carrier wave of microcurrent, putting it into the body's cells. So that, and the microcurrent just is at a certain rate, a certain level, to improve the cell membrane's acceptance, right? A lot of things that helps improve the tangible 3D matter of the body for receiving those frequencies. Now, let me tell you something else about the Pink Dot app, the Healy app. Simultaneously, when it's sending the current, the microcurrent out of the ports into the leads, into the body, simultaneously it's sending them also out of the what's called noise generator, the same way it was doing on the resonance app. So you're getting a twofold. So they're going into the field of you and humanity and the universe at the same time as they're going into the field of your body via the electrodes. So that one is a twofold. The resonance is just a single phase.
But your lead just wasn't plugged in there. You just showed me your wrist and it wasn't plugged in.
But because I was using the Healy for Mary, I didn't want to be connected.
Got it. Okay.
Right here, I can plug in.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
And Ken, also, once you have,
You get it both ways then if you're doing yourself.
Yes.
Got it.
and Ken, once you have a lot of lists for yourself and you want to maybe choose from one to run at night on the with the resonance, and you've got 30 lists in there, does it say what's what, or do you have to remember by what date? You know, you keep a journal?
Yeah, so you don't really have to keep a journal. You go to the list, and if you don't remember, because the list is going to be shown by the database in which the list was created. So it'll show you that it was from the learning page right there in the list tab. So, and it'll have a date and a time. And so you can click, if you don't remember the sequence that came up on that particular list, you can just click on the list. It'll open the sequence and you'll be able to look at the sequence. You go, oh, that's the wrong one. So if you have multiple ones that are from the gold page, from different analysis, and there was one particular sequence you found I really want that one again, then you're going to have to go back and review those particular lists. But it does at least separate them by database you chose as your selection. So all Healy programs or learning page or whatever. So,
Okay.
so that gives you a little bit more of a menu to choose from, but then you still define the exact sequence. Yep. You're gonna have to open the list and look at it.
Okay, great.
Hey,
Thanks.
Ken, one last question. Ken, you know, on the databases where it has Bach flower, amino acids, it's all that stuff, I Ching and all that. When do those come into play? Or is that another conversation?
Another conversation. I gotta go, ladies.
Bye.
I'm open for many, many more. I've handed the host over to you, Mary. To just,
Got it.
you got
Yeah.
okay.
You're welcome to stay and chat a little bit more about this, experiences, Q&A, and I'll do my best. And maybe the people here can go ahead and jump in as well. So Ken, thank you so very much. And
Thank you, Ken.
you
Thank you.
can. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye for now.